Hi, I'm Maria Teresa Kumar, and I am here at Lip Bar, an independently owned bookstore that happens to be founded by a fabulous Latina. Not a surprise. I am here for incredible conversation to talk specifically about women entrepreneurship, Hispanic Heritage Month, and what Latinas specifically do to mobilize our economy when they are allowed to hang that shingle. Thank you so much. I'm having you here with two incredible women that really don't need any introduction, if we're honest. One is an incredible entrepreneur herself. I call her the model of the 21st century Renaissance woman.
Oh,
what is it that she does not do? And the other individual that I have been such a fan of from afar, we are both California currently right now, representing in the Bronx, is Isabel Guzman. She is the Small Business Administrator and the highest ranking Latina in the Biden administration. She is responsible for closely 30 million small businesses, making sure that they have the right information right in front of them so that they can continue to grow. And your role could not be more important in this moment when we are talking about the pandemic and recovery. So, Jennifer, I want to talk to you because, as I shared, you are the quintessential 21st century Renaissance woman. You are an award-winning actor, you're an entrepreneur, and now you are amping up the stakes, making sure that women have an opportunity to speak for themselves. Speak a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, I started as an artist. I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit and a passion for creating things, something from nothing. That's just part of my DNA, and why I'm so excited to be talking to you both about the SBA community and the real idea that you can start at the bottom and just with grit and perseverance and clarity and vision, build a life that has purpose and impact and meet your own personal definition of success. And listen, I've done well. I'm not complaining in any way, but I really got inspired about being more business savvy when I realized that I was just like literally making people tons and tons of money and really not, making such a small percentage.
You're working for the man.
I was working for the man. And I was like, hold on.
Come on now.
Something's not right. This is not how it's supposed to be. Mama's working overtime and it's not really what it should be. And so just from those partnerships, I realized my partnerships had to change. That really understanding, and I think this is a very woman thing, understanding your worth and your value and who you are and what you bring to the table. And understanding that as an artist, you are the scarce asset. You really are. They need your vision. They try to make you feel like you're a dime a dozen, but it's not true. And so for me, it was about kind of empowering myself and saying, no, I'm not going to just give this away. If I'm going to be in a partnership with you, I'm going to own the majority of it. And that's when everything in my life changed.
How?
Because I became an owner. Because, I did, in a way, I was my own small business,
Yeah.
And so I had to, not just be the creative person, not just be the artist. I had to understand business in a different way. And I'm still learning. I really am. And but I do know that it is incredibly important for any small business to really understand the business side of things so that you don't get taken advantage of and so that you really can be successful. So a business doesn't go down in the first year. You really understand all the different aspects of how to do things. And so now my partnerships are all ownership. I have equity in everything that I do.
Gotta get snaps for that.
And that's why, I'm here today. I really want to help shine a light on women and Latinas and small businesses and see how we can not just bring energy and information, but also money into this community here in the Bronx. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Well, something that really struck with what Jennifer was describing is really, it reminds me of a skit from Chris Rock, where it's like the difference between rich and being wealthy, right? And one is working for someone and one is basically owning your destiny. The work that you do at SBA is critical to fulfill the vision that Jennifer was describing. Can you talk a little bit about what you do?
Yes, well, as the SBA administrator, I mean, we're the voice for small businesses and innovative startups. And we know that entrepreneurship is a pathway to building wealth, not only for families, but communities. They have an amazing trickle effect across communities. Those small businesses create 2/3 of net new jobs. They create more than 40% of the economic output of the country. And we see how powerful they are as a group, as a whole. Small businesses are giants in our economy. So the SBA's role is really to make sure that we're able to support those small businesses as they start, as they grow and operate, and as they build resilience, which this is what National Small Business Week is all about. And we're so thankful for you joining and putting a spotlight on the fact that our small businesses are so vital. But that we really need to come together to support them, because so many of them, especially women and people of color, have had some disproportionate impacts during this time. So the SBA's focus is on really trying to make sure that we can provide them with the capital that they need, as well as the opportunities to leverage that capital to start to see some growth across their businesses and have better impact in our economy. Our nation really depends on the small businesses and the innovative startups in our ecosystem to build wealth, as well as build our competitiveness. Our global competitiveness really depends on our ability to tap into that wonderful entrepreneurial spirit and that creativity. And so, just as Jennifer was saying, bringing that talent, that vision, that unique brand to the table is what all small businesses do, but they wear multiple hats. And so understanding your P&L, or understanding your supply chain, or understanding marketing, or how to get into global markets, those things are what the SBA is about trying to teach you, and providing the capital along the way to help you get there.
So Jennifer, you mentioned something that when you started, you didn't really have any role models, that you were building it from scratch. Why is it so important for you to celebrate and actually craft an opportunity to be a mentor to new entrepreneurs, specifically Latinas and women in general? And why here in the Bronx?
You can never underestimate how important it was for me to just see Rita Moreno in West Side Story. When I was 5 or 6 years old, it made me think oh, she's in a movie, I can do it too. She's a Puerto Rican woman, that's me up there. And I think for me, coming back to the Bronx, I just want everybody to know and to be inspired. And oh, she did this, and she's doing this, and she's doing this, and I do a lot of things. And she's doing all these other things. And
as long as I can do 2 well compared to you, it'll be fine.
You just do 1.
No, she's a serial entrepreneur that does a lot.
It's not normal. It's not. I'm not saying do that. What I'm saying is, be limitless. You can do anything. That's why I've created Limitless Labs, and I really want to focus on empowering women, inspiring them to see that whatever it is they want to do, they can accomplish it. If they want to be in politics and be the, highest ranking woman in the presidential administration, you can do that too.
Right.
You can do all of these things, and not just be in movies, but also, be a CEO, or be own your own bookstore in the Bronx. So that's right. So yes.
But what I love about that is that what you're sharing and saying it loudly and proudly is that Latinas, we belong in all spaces.
Absolutely.
And part of it is that we don't see ourselves often enough. I know that that's one of the reasons that inspired Judge Sotomayor, is that she saw a position to be a judge and said, that's where I want to go.
Right.
And so the more spaces that we occupy, the more that we actually start changing where we can and cannot be compared in what society believes.
Yeah, we're a big part of this country, and it's only growing. I heard something that's going to grow 65%. We're going to have 65% of the growth of the population over the next 10 years. It's we're a big part of this country, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be represented in every room that's important, and especially the rooms that are making decisions. So,
and we have to get that
Latinas as well, in addition, are growing at such high rate in terms of entrepreneurship. I mean, a 20% growth rate over the past 5 years, 20% growth rate. And so it's remarkable, and we need to make sure that we're actually providing them with the resources. But it is about role models, because if they see successes, they're learning from you.
Hugely
they're
important.
watching what you're doing, and then they're either going out to get the help to replicate or doing it themselves.
For me, it was a game changer. It was a game changer.
And something, I wish I had heard this conversation 17 years ago when I started my nonprofit. I did it all the wrong way. I did it on my credit cards. Don't do that, ladies. Really terrible idea. But what would be helpful is that folks don't realize that the entrepreneurship, that there are resources for those individuals. in this moment when people are trying to figure out who and what they should be because of COVID, and they're trying to reimagine themselves in their business, what services does SBA have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the SBA is really about, like I said, the capital programs. We have loans, investment products. There are actually grants for innovation in the federal government that you can tap into to pilot and commercialize your product, take it to the marketplace. So the SBA really leverages all these amazing resources and deploys them through networks. And so we have incredible lending partners on the ground, both banks and credit unions and mission-based lenders that folks can go to. But as well, we have networks with small business centers and women's business centers and veteran centers. We really feel that we need to be out there in the community. And this is actually something that President Biden and Vice President Harris are so committed to. They want to make sure that all of our small businesses can tap into resources. And so we've launched a Community Navigator pilot program, which will deploy within the next month or two. And it'll actually tap into local promoters and advocates and champions who can connect small businesses in their communities to the resources. Because we saw during COVID, they didn't know where to go sometimes, or they tried to go places and were not able to access those resources. So the SBA is on the ground and available through SBA.gov and through all these networks of partners to provide you with technical assistance, loans, investments, as well as resilience tools to build into the future.
The fact, Jennifer, that you are launching Limitless Labs now, today, in the middle of when people are trying to reimagine and redefine themselves in this chaotic business environment that is COVID, what can you tell someone to reimagine their business, given how many times you've been able to change your practice?
We are really in an interesting moment in life to have that conversation. Today, I think as founders and creators, we're closer to our fans and our followers and our audiences and consumers through the power of social media. And I think being able to pivot all the time is really important. It's like, I think the reason I've been able to be in the business as long as I have is because I don't get stuck in a moment. I kind of just like stay with what's going on and deal with how things are changing.
So I think this is where sometimes people get stuck. They have a hard time pivoting.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for folks? Because, my grandmother would always say, you have a life plan and then life happens, right? And so how do you absorb that? What's your advice?
I think you have to be true and consistent to who you are and authentic to who you are, but you also have to be able to move with what's happening in the world and society and people and how they're changing and how the world's changing. Obviously, the world's changed so much over the past couple of years. And I think that it's really important to be malleable, just to be the person who can, say, okay, this is how I feel about this, but at the same time, it's not the feeling of everybody around me. So how do I communicate my message in the way that I want to communicate it, but at the same time, be conscious of all of the changing factors in the world. It's a hard thing to do sometimes, but I feel like as an artist and as somebody who loves to create, it's an important thing for me to be able to communicate with my audience in a very authentic way, to really listen to what they say. I think social media was such a game changer as well, because you get to really hear directly from people. Right. And that's an easy thing. You think one thing, you're like, oh, I think this will be a great thing. And they're like, nope, that's what you should be doing right now. Why aren't you doing this? Like real honest feedback that you get to have, where you can, again, sometimes it's death. It can be death to kind of, artists always say this, it's death if you start playing to the audience. But I think there's a balance to it. There's a balance to listening and be egoless enough to listen to what people have to say, and then at the same time be true to yourself.
And I think you strike a chord in that. What I'm hearing you say at the same time is be patient with change and be patient with yourself in that pivot.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say be patient. That's exactly what I'm saying, but I'm saying be open. be open.
And entrepreneurship, that's the core of it, is really listening to those customers that walk in your door. And when they have suggestions, you pay attention. And so being customer centric, but also staying true to what you're trying to deliver.
Yeah, what the message is.
What you know you're
what the
good
brand
at.
is. Because that's important. I think people come to you for your specific brand. A small business provides something that the big chain bookstores don't provide. Personal service, a feeling, an intimacy that's important, that people need, especially now. That's a pivot.
Community.
In a different way than, was kind of going along for a long time, where it was like the bigger the better. Now it's like people want, after this pandemic, they want intimacy. They want something that feels real. They want something that feels like you care, right? And I think that's something that never changes.
Which is exactly why your voice is so important right now, because we've been asking our businesses for the past year and a half to pivot and adapt to be able to survive during COVID. But that's not easy. That's not so easy.
It's not
you
an
really
easy
have
thing
to
to do.
Really have to get in touch with who you are as a brand, as a business, figure out what the marketplace needs, and get help, get resources and tools to do that. So it's your voice is really important right now from that perspective of teaching entrepreneurs how to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Administrator, you came to this life's work, so to speak, because you were helping your family with their small business. You were that entrepreneur. You helped provide resources. You now are helping create policy. As we start going into the second wave of whatever the pandemic looks like, what kind of resources are available right now from the administration, number one? And number two, what advice do you have for that young woman right now thinking, should I do it?
There are incredible resources out there, but getting in touch with them, connecting to them is actually one of the biggest challenges. So I always encourage our entrepreneurs to know that you can build a team around you. And with the SBA, those resources are actually free, so that you can have an advisor.
Free is important. No one should be paying for any of this. Free is very important.
Free is important. And so get those advisors around you through our small business centers or our field offices, so that they can connect you to those resources. But truly what the SBA is trying to do is come in and help prop up our businesses during COVID so that they can survive. We've provided the PPP forgivable loans, which everyone's so familiar with, and we've provided special grants to high impacted industries like restaurants and shuttered venues. And now what we're trying to do is position to make sure that we keep the economy open. President Biden, of course, announced his COVID action plan to make sure that we can get our population vaccinated and make sure that we can keep our schools and economy open, and that we can better protect people from hospitalizations and death. And so with all that push, we hope to maintain open businesses and provide some of that cash flow that they need, because right now that's what they need. They've gone into debt. They've had to incur expenses to pivot and adapt and change things about their operations. And so we are providing a remarkable long-term, low-cost capital tool for small businesses called economic injury disaster loans. We want to arm them with those resources so that they can either plan to take advantage of the great opportunities that are coming down our way within the bipartisan infrastructure deal or the president's Build Back Better agenda, or position their business to survive during COVID if they were one of the high impact industries.
That's wonderful. And so just to wrap up right now, Jennifer, there is a young woman somewhere right now trying to come up with a gazillion excuses why she shouldn't start today, but at the same time, she'd be the next Jennifer Lopez. What advice do you have for her?
My biggest motivator was always, no, you can't do that. Like, what do you mean? I can't do that. Yes, I can.
That's so offensive, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's so offensive. It's so inappropriate. But yeah, I think it's that drive for me. I would say never, ever let no, or, when you grow up in these smaller kind of underserved communities and you see everybody out there and they seem to have this better life, especially with social media and Instagram and all this stuff. It's like, this is better. That's not me. I could never be that. That to me was the motivator. It was just like, no, I want them to know you can do that. I was just like you, and I lived in these communities where it was kind of put in my mind, like, that wasn't me. I'm not going to be a big movie star. I'm not going to be a big pop star. I'm not going to own my own business. No, you can do all of those things. And I think my advice to them would be to never let no stop you, or never let the voices inside your head, which sometimes are bigger than the voices outside, stop you from knowing deep down that you are capable of anything that you want to accomplish and any dream that you may have in any sector of business or the arts or whatever, or politics or anything. So that would be mine.
I love that only because my grandmother had an 8th grade education. She had 8 children by the time she was 26. She was a single mother. And she basically told me very clearly that when I asked her, how did she do it? She said, because I remind myself that no was for everybody else.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, ladies, for this conversation.
Thank you.